the direction she was holding my eye.
Hello and welcome to Stranger Stopping Strangers. This is podcast number 25. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome back to anybody who's returning, and thanks for stopping by and anyone who's new this week. This week's podcast is with Jill Matlow, and Jill and I met through our mutual friend Deb Solomon, who thought we would have a lot of fun sharing stories, and as always, we really did. Jill had so much love and so many great stories that really start, in her college days, her first show at Ithaca, and take us around the East Coast to the Spectrum, some crazy times at Giant Stadium, and end up at Fare Thee Well. And as always, the stories are filled with friends and family and all the magic that surrounds the live Dead show experiences. So just so much fun to hear and to share. This week's, I was really working for 2017 on increasing my quality with the recorded conversations, and not sure I nailed it with the quality range on the call, but it is the content phenomenal, and just want to let everyone know this is something that I am working on. So as always, thank you so much for tuning in. To check out any back episodes, check out the website at www.strangerstoppingstrangers.com. And as always, thank you for tuning in.
Well, Jill, welcome so much to Stranger Stopping Strangers.
Thank you so much, Staci. It's great to talk to you this morning.
Well, it's been fun talking, and thank you to Deb for connecting us. She's been saying that, you're one of her girls and would have so many fun stories and would be a great guest. So thanks, Deb, for connecting us. A little shout out.
I definitely appreciate that, and a shout out to Deb as well. I second that emotion. Deb has been really awesome the last few years, connecting all the Deadheads, and it's really been wonderful. So it's great to meet you, Staci.
You too. Well, and so you write a blog. I'm going to attach a couple of the more Grateful Dead related ones, but so you guys connected in New York. So tell me a little bit about that, and then we'll get into your story.
Well, I actually had always wanted to go to the Wall Street Get Ahead functions, which I had read about, and I finally reached out to Deb about 2 years ago. And actually, what I loved about her is she does her due diligence when it comes to meeting all the prospective members. And a funny story, I had actually gone over to her office to meet her, and I had to go to the ladies' room, and there was a long wait, and then I had to go to a different ladies' room, and long story short, this tall, thin woman went up to me and said, "Are you Jill?" And it was a little bit embarrassing because I do want to make a good first impression with Deb. And I said, "I am." She said to me, "Give me your coat. I'm going to wait here so you don't get lost on your way back to my office." And I realized at that point that I said, this is definitely an event that I want to go to, and this is definitely a group I want to be a member of. So that's how it all started.
Very. I have to think it would have been more awkward if you were men, right? Meeting.
Right. It's kind of very Staci. Women always go to the bathroom together and talk, but I just, I love that Deb was so down to earth, and I think it really set the tone for what the group is all about, and I was really excited, and true to her word, when I did go to the first event, it really exceeded my expectations, and so far these last 2 years have really been great, getting to know the members, and I'm looking forward to the next event, so it's really been wonderful.
Yeah, no, she's awesome. She took my phone call before I started the podcast out of the blue. And I think we talked about this on the last podcast. I just love people in this day and age that actually have their number be their number and they pick it up, And so, in 2017, to get a human being and to be able to connect, in person rather than, emails and message boxes. And so.
Oh, I agree. And Deb is busy. Listen, even when I was meeting with her the first time and her phone was ringing and she gets numerous emails, but I really felt as though she gives, her undivided attention, and, she's very authentic, and I think that people really respect her. So I can't say enough, but and she did actually, one of the articles that I did write for 50 is the New 50 was actually a recap of the first Wall Street Dead Ahead networking event that I had attended, and I was honored that Deb asked me to do that. So. Oh,
cool. And so where can 50 is the New 50? Is it a website? Like, how can we? I'm going to attach a couple links, but how do we find the ongoing writing?
It's actually 50 is the New 50, and it's all spelled out .com, and there's a search engine, and if you just put in Jill Matlow, you can bring up all my articles, and two of the articles that I have written, one was specifically about the Wall Street Dead Ahead event, and my other article was about my 30-year love affair with the Grateful Dead.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to attach those to the website. So those will be real easy for anyone who's listening to be able to grab, and then you guys can dig on deeper online after that. So let's start about let's hear about the affair. Let's do because we're going to play some music, and let's start at the beginning and hear about this 30-year love affair, and then play some of the songs that you picked out.
Definitely. Well, it started in my teen years. I had older cousins who gave me two Grateful Dead albums. One was Working Men's Dead, and the other was American Beauty. And those were both listened to on the turntable. And it wasn't until actually my senior year at Ithaca College that I went to my first live Dead show. And I couldn't actually recall the whole evening, but I do remember I heard Eyes of the World for the first time live, which continues to be my favorite Dead song, and that sort of set the stage from 1982 on forward. I made it a point to see a bunch of Dead shows every year in different cities, and that sort of started me on my journey, so to speak.
And you are from Philadelphia, so your first experiences were in college, but then you spent a fair amount of time at the Spectrum and up there. Because when we chatted before, you were saying Rob's podcast really resonated with you with the Philly Deadhead, connection there. That people were into hockey and the Dead. That was his that was his statement from growing up.
It's there, it's so true. Well, I grew up in a small coal mining town called Mount Carmel, which a lot of people probably have not heard of. And so as soon as I graduated from Ithaca, I actually moved to Philly a week later. And so the large part of my concert-going years were spent at the Spectrum. And I would usually do these 3 nights in a row at the Spectrum, which, friends of mine who weren't into the Dead never understood why I would have to go the 3 nights in a row. And I think most Deadheads, realize it's a completely different experience every night, a different set list. And I would actually go home for some holidays and leave in the middle of them. And my parents would even support my devotion, and I would board the bus from Mount Carmel back to Philly just so I wouldn't, miss the trio of Dead shows at the Spectrum. So that went on for years. That went on.
Well, we have some Spectrum, but let's get into some music because we picked out 5 songs, and the first one we picked was, as you had just mentioned, Eyes of the World from Ithaca College. So set the scene for us. It's 1982. You're in college. It's just pure magic. Any other just like little special memories that you want to dive into to share?
Well, I did. It was actually that we traveled, I think it was an hour. We went to the show was in Syracuse, and it was an auditorium, which I still can't pronounce, Onodaga Auditorium. And I will say I've saved my ticket stub from that night and from many other shows, but my ticket stub was only $11, which I think back then I thought was a lot of money. But anyway, it was money worth spent, and I went with a very good friend of mine, Madeline, and she and I are still in touch. So we will always have shared that memory of going to our first Dead show together.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I love Eyes of the World. I mean, it's so hard to pick a favorite song, but I actually picked that song when I did my intro podcast, which is yeah, if anyone wants to hunt it down, there's no guest, but before I ever spoke to anyone, I did like a little introductory on, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm sure it's pretty raw. And I just chose a couple songs from the Boston Garden, 1973, April 2nd, because they were playing in Boston on the day I was born, and I was born in California, and I just thought it was cool, you know, that the day I was born they were playing in the state I live in now. And Eyes of the World was one of the songs. The two songs I picked were Here Comes Sunshine and Eyes of the World, because they just seem so, they just seem really apropos for your birthday, you know, like they are, you know, meaningful to me, so.
And I think those are two songs, I don't know about you, but I never get sick of hearing those.
No. And then it was right before Wake of the Flood came out, so they were just kind of fucking around getting ready for Wake of the Flood, and it was, you know, like a couple weeks before. But it's fun how you learn new things. I mean, especially now. I mean, I learn something new every day. And so I hear you, sister, on Eyes of the World. If anybody wants to know my podcast picks, it is I'm Eye to Eye with You. That's on the
I love that. I love it.
So, right, well, let's play this, and then we will come back and go a little bit further down the road. So everybody enjoy back in 1982 with the $11 ticket price. Have fun.
Ain't got time for the soul critic. Right outside the lazy gate of winter summer home. The fact that you witness wings a mile long, just carry the burden away. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world. Heart has its seasons, its lonely thoughts of its own. We now discovered that you are the song that the Lord did bring. Heart has its seasons, its evenings, its songs of its own. It's loaded with pain. Leaves that were solid all burst into bloom and decay. The night comes so quiet, it's close on the heels of the day. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world. Heart has its visions, it's longer than thoughts of its own. Lately I discovered that you are the song that the morning breaks. Heart has its seasons, its evenings, its songs of its own. in your home. Sometimes we ride in your horses. Sometimes we walk alone. Sometimes the songs that we hear are the songs of our own. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world. Heart has its seasons, its homeland and parts of its own. We now discover that you are the song that the morning brings. Heart has its seasons, its songs of its own.
We are back from listening to Eyes of the World, and gosh, I love that song. That's one of my sister's favorite songs too. It's probably a lot of people's one of their favorite songs, right?
It's the best. I still get chills when I hear it, so it's still working for me.
And this is the first time I've heard this version of it when I found this for your story, and it's a really speedy version of it. I was looking at like the little comments on the org, where I get a lot of the music, and it's a real different version than, that the song can go in so many different directions, but it was really fun listening to it because it's got it's very upbeat.
Oh, definitely. And like you said, there's so many different iterations, Bramford Marsalis, there's so many different Eyes of the World out there that it's just, it feels like you're listening to a different song sometimes the way it's played, so totally. I still love it.
Well, I think this is one of the speediest ones I've ever heard, so it's so much fun because I get to hear music that, I would never, there's just so much archives that there's so much I haven't heard, and until somebody says, look for this song, I wouldn't know it. So, so it's a little bonus to getting to talk to you is getting to hear different songs. So very fun. Well, let's go a little bit farther down. There were so many fun stories, and you had shared with me a kind of a crazy antics moments at Giant Stadium. So, tell us a little bit about that night, what went down.
Sure. I actually, at this point, still living in Philly and connected with two good friends of mine, Steve and Adam, and we used to go to shows together, and they both lived in New York. And this was a show at Giant Stadium, which I think many people will remember. It was July in 1989, and it was the show that people literally jumped from the first level of the stadium onto the field. And, in hindsight, I must have a guardian angel because it was, I think, a 15 or 20-foot drop, and I sort of hung onto the rail and just fell down onto the field, and my two other friends also did the same foolish thing. One friend, unfortunately, ended up sort of spraining his back, but we were all on the field. I then ran into my brother, who also was there, and it just was like a memory I'll always have of a Grateful Dead show. It was crazy. People were spilling onto the field, but once you got on there and made it past security, people were high-fiving each other, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
So the security, once you got down, it was just kind of like a general admission pit kind of situation where everyone could just hang out once they were down there?
Yeah, security, they were grabbing people, and unfortunately, my friends and I were not some of the people that were grabbed, so we made it there, and to this day, 30 years later, however many years later, we still talk about it, and it was a lot of fun, but again, I think, in hindsight, I'm just grateful that I didn't break an ankle, or, that I lived to tell about it.
Yeah, well, they say, youth is wasted on the young, right? We have no idea, what you're doing until you look back on it. And it's like, oh, my God, holy shit, did I do that? And
It's true. It's so true. And the funny thing is, I actually had lunch with my brother Lou this week, and we were reminiscing about that. He claims he hurdled onto the field. I don't know about that. I think that there's some embellishing that's going on with his story, but it's kind of ironic that the two of us did the same thing. I'm sure my parents would be really proud.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well,
anyway.
It's having a deadhead sibling, my sister, she was on the podcast, and she's the one who really kind of got me onto the bus. And my mom listened to it, and it was kind of like horrifying and fun for her, I think, to listen to it because, she knew, but she didn't really know, and now that we're, responsible grown-ups, they can kind of look back and say, like, whatever. But at the time when I was, in high school and she was in college or whatever, had they known, it wouldn't have been so easily digested, probably at the time.
I know. I agree. I think when it's in the past, it's fine. They don't have to worry. But I have since been making some, better decisions with my life. But you know what? I'm glad I did it back then. It was definitely fun.
Well, I hope your mom listens, and I hope your mom is like equally proud and horrified all at the same time when she hears about what you and your brother are up to. And perfect serendipity mention, I have to say this show, as my mom is listening, is July 9th, which is her birthday. So July 9th, 1989. So shout out to Elaine. Yeah, I can't hear the date July 9th without thinking about my mom. So
that's awesome.
So there we go. I had a nice parent story wrapped into to Mom's birthday. So
I love it. Well, happy birthday to your mother.
Well, so we chose Shakedown Street. So I mean that's always such a fun song. So that's a fun song to back up a fun memory. So let's go Shakedown on Shakedown Street, and then we will come back with another story or two.
Sounds good.
Okay. Enjoy.
Sunny side of the street is dark. You can never tell. Maybe it's 'cause it's midnight in the dark of the moon beside. Maybe the sun is from your eye. Maybe this town ain't got no eye. Maybe the dark is from your eye. Maybe this town ain't got no eye. Maybe the dark is from your eye. Maybe this town is from your eye. You know you got such dark eyes. Woo! Cause you're shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Trouble this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. This town's living true. Well, you can never tell. Nothing there that can interest you. Well, you can never tell. It's not because you missed out on the thing that we had to start. Maybe you had too much too fast. 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 Just overplayed your part. Shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Trouble this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Passing your way today. Well, you can never tell. Just stop by, cause I wanna say. Well, you can never tell. I recall your darkness when it crackled like a thundercloud. Oh, tell me this town ain't got no heart. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Oh, tell me this town ain't got no heart. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Oh, tell me this town ain't got no heart. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. I can hear it beat out loud. Woo! I'm shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Got me shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Well, nothing shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Poke around, now poke around. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Poke around. Well, tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Well, just gotta poke around. Just gotta poke around. Don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. No, just gotta poke around. Woo. Just gotta poke around. Well, don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. You just gotta poke around. Well, just gotta poke around. Don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. Just gotta poke around. Well, you just gotta poke around. Just gotta poke around. Well, just gotta poke around. Just gotta poke around. You just gotta poke around. Just gotta poke around. You just gotta poke around. Just gotta poke around.
Well, back from listening to Shakedown Street, and I'm always shaken after some Shakedown Street. What about you? It's,
very energizing song.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine anyone listening to Shakedown Street and not doing a little shaking on Shakedown Street. So much fun. Well, I want to ask a little bit more about, so that was at Giant Stadium. So, you did spend some time in Philadelphia and had some great shows at the Spectrum. So you had talked a little bit about that, and this was really kind of at the end of the run. I think this might have been the last show at the Spectrum, was the next concert we wanted to talk about. So tell me a little bit about your show in March.
Sure. I think this was, again, one of those spring runs, the trio of shows, but one show in particular, I was there with a good friend of mine, Jen. She and I would go to shows together, and the band started playing some chords, and my friend started screaming. And at first, I thought thought, oh my God, like what's happening? Should I be calling the paramedics over? And then the band broke into Unbroken Chain, which I had never heard the song before, I'm embarrassed to say, but this was the first time they actually debuted the song. And so that was obviously like a very high point for my friend Jan. Me, again, I never had heard this song, and now I do hear it quite frequently, but it was really significant evening, and just the crowd just went wild hearing it. So that was pretty exciting. That was pretty exciting being there.
No, that's awesome. It is such a beautiful song, and I may have never heard it. I mean, again, the catalog is so big, it's hard to remember. And then, there was those songs that people hunted down, and then later on they, started putting them back in, like St. Stephen and Dark Star. And I remember, for years people, calling them and wanting them, and then them being introduced. And I don't know on Broken Chain if I ever did hear it. I mean, I've definitely. The studio version, I mean, it's just beautiful, but that's awesome.
It is a beautiful. I have to say, Staci, now whenever the band starts to, start playing the song, I'm always like, oh, it's Unbroken Chain. Like now, obviously, I know, but back then I didn't know. So it's a great song, really great song, and again, great memories of the Spectrum.
Well, let's go into it. Let's play this, and so we'll play this one for Screamin' Jen, and again, so this Unbroken Chain is dedicated to you, Jen, and one very rare live recordings because again, this was really the end of the run. So I don't have the stats on if it was played after, but I can't imagine it's very prolific in the archives. So let's everyone enjoy, and then we will be back.
For the secret, searching for the sound, but I can only hear the preacher and the man of his town. Below the sky, oh, I walk and wonder why they say love you, brother, but you got to when you try. Though you found the landmark, looking for the lost, find you out on the cold road and nail you to the cross. As I wait for the scar, that telling me forgiveness is the key to every door. Slow with the day, the night like forever. Sing like a pistol, float like a feather. chain on the soft wind high. Out on the mountain, it'll drive you insane. Whispering to the wind high. A broken chain of sorrow and hurt. Broken chain of light. Broken chain of the west wind. Broken chain of you and me.
Well, back from listening to Unbroken Chain, and I, we talked a bit about like some different, bands that you had seen and different things, but I mean, the real next, real game changer time was when they, from what you had told me, was when they announced the Fare Thee Well. So tell me a little bit about your experience with when that came out and what went down.
Definitely. Well, it was Staci, as most people remember, that was a crazy time for everybody. And I've never done it before, but I decided to do the mail order, and I decorated an envelope. And honestly, my artwork looked like it was like from a fifth grader did it. And I sent it in. I said I have nothing to lose. Well, I ended up getting a ticket for the Saturday night of the Fare Thee Well run. And I was beside myself. And actually, the tickets came out closer to the date of the concert, but I was so neurotic about if I got a ticket that I had booked a hotel. I had booked my airfare. And I ended up going to Chicago to this Saturday night show, which, was awesome. And, I ran into a bunch of old and new friends throughout the weekend. And ironically, the couple to my left lived 20 blocks from me in New York City, and she and I are now friends.
Oh,
and,
I love that. That's so fun.
Yeah, I give a shout out to Amy. And
Hi, Amy.
And Amy is also a member of Wall Street Dead Ahead, and it was a great night. So the next morning I woke up, and I had been anticipating this weekend for months, and I woke up, I was so depressed because I was like, the weekend is over. I went on one of those architectural river cruises in Chicago, and I started walking back to my hotel to just get ready to head back to the airport. And I was literally a block from my hotel, and I looked up, and there was my friend Jen from my Spectrum days, and she was there with her boyfriend Gary, and we both just we hadn't seen each other in years, and we had lost touch. She's not really a Facebook person, and we were hugging, and it was almost like the perfect ending to
I just got the chills hearing it. I just got the chills because it's kind of like the ending and the beginning all at the same time, which is what I think Fare Thee Well was for so many people,
Oh, it was. I couldn't plan. The timing of this, like the fact that I was on that block at that time, and they, her boyfriend Gary was like, "Come on, have a drink with us before you head to the airport." And we ended up catching up. And P.S. We now, the three of us, meet up at Dead and Company shows. So it's like we had lost touch, but I think when you share, going to Grateful Dead concerts with somebody, you always have that bond. And we're right back to where we were, 30 years ago. And it was just a perfect way to end my weekend. So.
Oh, that's so cool. No, it's like, And it's interesting because, like, all the people that you meet, like the social media aspect, which really, I mean, I probably feel like 75% of the people I have met through this experience have started online, maybe even 85. I mean, there's a handful of people I've met at concerts and at shows, which is, you know, more organic where you meet in person. But it's like this, it's just so neat how there's this connection, and then but I don't know, you wonder, like, who were you at the same, like, you start talking to people and you think you were at the same places, you were at the same shows, you were, you know, jamming, you know, probably parked next to each other, you know, back at, you know, you're gonna get at this, but you and Rob were probably at the Spectrum at the same time, and me and some people I've talked to, we go down to, you know, like the Cal Expo or Shoreline or stories like that. It's neat, and then how you can just pick right back up again, you know, and it's just enough to make it's all that you need, you know, to make that connection and hang out, and it's really cool.
And, you know, people don't change either, Staci. You know, Jen and I were always very sort of type A, like, let's get here on time. Like, do we have our tickets? Do we get our tickets in advance? And she's still like that, which is so awesome. And, you know, I was just very grateful that it all sort of lined up the way it did in Chicago. So, you know, it's just one of the many memories that I still have of all those years, and, you know, meeting people and staying in touch, not staying in touch, and just sharing, like, such a huge part of my life that is so important.
And the magic that brings it all around. Well, I have to ask you, so with the summer tour announced, you and Jen, any plans? What's on the docket?
Well, we actually all saw each other at the last City Field shows, and I think this summer we're all just playing it by ear. So, but we'll definitely be meeting up. So, yeah, I definitely that will be on the books for sure.
The City Field. I hope I'm not expecting to make it to City Field. I would love to make it to City Field because I've met so many amazing people that it'd be really fun to go to New York, like yourself, and hang out with you. So we'll see. I'm planning Shoreline for sure, and I'm planning Fenway for sure, and SPAC, and that's a lot in the month of June. Like, it'll be Fenway, and then SPAC is the next Tuesday, and then City Field's the next weekend. So we'll see. I mean, I would really, it'd be really fun, but you know, I guess it's one of those. To plan on at this ripe age to plan on 5 shows in 10 days is that's a bold plan. So
right. I have to say, you know, Staci, like, here it is, like, all these years, you know, moving ahead. I still, when they come through town, and I know it's Dead and Company, but I still have to go to a show. You know,
absolutely.
I'll probably be the 70-year-old, you know, going, but I can't give it up yet. It's a religion to me. So I'm going to keep practicing it.
All eyes on June. All eyes on June. Very excited about it. All eyes on June. June is going to be so much fun. So again, I'm really appreciative for what I've got planned, and who knows if I can pull another rabbit or two out of my hat. But
I'm
the
sure
ripe age of 43 with 2 kids and a full-time job, I'm feeling like Shoreline, Fenway, and SPAC, and then we'll see. Like, we'll see. I don't know. Anything else is crazy. So let's just tell me about. So what song are we going to play? We picked out a song from Fare Thee Well, and we're gonna go into that. So we chose Stella Blue, right?
We did.
And just a beautiful song, meaningful song, just something that just makes your heart smile every time you hear it.
It really does, Staci. They actually at Fare Thee Well played it the night I was there, and they had a blimp showing the lyrics. All the years combined, they melt into a dream, and it really was like the perfect sort of send off for me. So I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful song. So that's what I remember. One of the things I remember from that evening.
Well, I think that those lyrics just kind of say it all. So, well, let's go in and play this, and then we will come back and do a little goodbye. So, everybody enjoy Stella Blue, Fare Thee Well, and this was on July 4th, 2015.
broken angels sing. From a guitar. In the end, it's just that song. Right up tonight. Broken dreams.
Stella Blue, and you know, you had told me a little story. We had talked about the lyrics, you know, before we went into it, and I want you to share the additional story behind the lyrics and this meaning for you. So please do share.
Oh, thank you, Staci. Well, when I turned 50 a few years ago, I celebrated with my family in the Philadelphia suburbs, my parents, my brother, my sister, my brother-in-law, nephews, and my mother had said to me, "Do you ever get sick of wearing tie-dye?" And I said, "Not really." And she handed me a rolled-up T-shirt, and when I unfolded it, it was actually the lyrics from Stella Blue. All the years combined, they melt into a dream, and it was a picture of a dancing bear holding a birthday cake, and I looked over, and all the members of my family had taken off their shirts, and they were all wearing the tie-dye T-shirt that they had made for me, and it was so meaningful because it made me realize, you know, my family has embraced the fact that, you know, I'm a deadhead, and even if it was my 50th birthday, it was really such a memorable birthday for me. So I just had to mention that. So going to Fare Thee Well and then seeing the lyrics again, it was like another milestone. Yeah. And it was very touching. So that was another memory. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That's a lot of thought, that's a lot of effort, that's a lot of unity, you know, and to get that from your family, I mean, there's so much love there. That's pretty fucking cool. That's very cool. Well, I have had so much fun getting to meet you and talk to you because we talked the other day and we're talking now, and I know we're going to see each other because you're in New York and I'm in Massachusetts, and there's no reason we won't. So this is just the beginning.
Oh, Staci, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I found you through Deb. So it's really been great chatting with you and getting to know you, even if it's over the phone.
Well, again, over the phone for now, and I'm sure in 2017 I will be in person, and it may be at Citi Field. We'll see that on that one, or you can come up to Fenway. Absolutely, the invite is out there the weekend before. Take the train up to Boston because that's going to be super fun. So.
It definitely sounds it. Well, thank you again, Staci, for this opportunity. It was wonderful. It was really wonderful.
Well, thank you. And everybody, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Stopping strangers just to shake their hand. Everybody's praying.